So when you buy Girl Scout cookies, you're investing in the future through a girl.
And you're getting a great box of cookies.
Think Girl Scouts? Think it's all about cookies? Well, it goes a lot deeper than that.
We are the best companion to the K-12 classroom.
Danielle Shockey should know. She's a former teacher and principal. She's putting her education background into play as CEO of the Girl Scouts of Central Indiana through science and technology, sending young girls on a fast track to success and catching national attention.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a race car driver? Well, our next story takes us to Indianapolis, home of the famous Indy 500.
From the track,
I need everybody to turn to page 4.
To the classroom, these kids are using math and engineering to learn how to make race cars go faster.
Good.
Meet the woman driving the Girl Scouts of Central Indiana into the future, CEO Danielle Shockey, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. Hello and welcome to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. I'm Gary Dick. Danielle Shockey likes to say, once a Girl Scout, always a Girl Scout. Her mom was her troop leader when she was a little girl, and now Danielle is leading the way for some 18,000 Girl Scouts covering nearly half of the state. And she'll be the first to tell you, this isn't your grandmother's Scouts. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by Danielle Shockey. She is the CEO of Girl Scouts of Central Indiana. And Danielle, how are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Very good. Very good. We are, as we are recording this podcast, it looks like we've gone directly from fall right into winter. It's cold outside. There's a little bit of snow. So that means one thing, and that's that Girl Scout cookies can't be that far away, right?
They are en route nearby, and you're right. We kicked that off in January.
How big, put in perspective, from a program standpoint, the size of that, the fundraising piece of it, and there's, I know, also a learning piece of it for the girls as well. Talk about the program, how significant it has become over the years.
Well, first of all, I can't tell you the number of women leaders in our community who tell me their experience in cookies. Everybody has one, it seems. And many of them actually credit this being the time they became unshy or they did something out of their comfort zone for the first time. So the program part that you just described is like exponentially important. And especially now today, girls who really take to the digital space and they're creating commercials and their own landing page. And so, yeah, the learning part is amazing. The entrepreneurship part, outstanding. And in terms of impact, Girl Scout cookies, with the fact that it's only sold seasonally, is only second in sales nationally to Oreo. And I always find that just out, like this, a fact that's you have to really sit back and think about that. But here in Central Indiana, we sell about 3.1 million boxes of Girl Scout cookies. So our community really likes Girl Scout cookies, and we're thankful for that because what you also said is true. The money all stays in Central Indiana. Mm-hmm. The Girl Scout troops each earn on every box sold a great deal of the money, and that's how they fuel what they do for the other 11 months of the year. So yeah, it's incredibly impactful.
Yeah. And you were a Girl Scout, right? You're a Girl Scout alumnus?
I am a Girl Scout. Well, we're working on that. We're trying to say that once a Girl Scout, always a Girl Scout. And so, yes, I am a Girl Scout. My mom was my troop leader. I have vague recollections of selling cookies. And Gary, my favorite part of being a Girl Scout was I went to a Catholic elementary school where I had to wear a uniform.
Right.
And I thought I was such a rebel when I got to wear my Girl Scout uniform. Like I was just mixing it up. So I always chuckle at that I thought, ooh, I get to break the rules and wear this, which frankly, to be honest with you, was less attractive, right? The brown bonnet. I'm not so sure which was the better outfit.
Right. Girl Scouts, in particular here in Central Indiana, have been in the spotlight recently, right? NBC News was actually here and had a piece on the national newscast. What was that all
this
about?
Last week, you can find it online. It was NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. And that was really, it was a multifaceted purpose for their coming here. We were launching on that day a Sim for STEM racing simulation structure that will live here forever in Girl Scouts of Central Indiana at our STEM Experience Center. It's the first in the state of Indiana. It's in partnership with Steffi Bao, who works with Inuit Sports. And she herself has been in racing her entire life. And so the design and the purpose of it is to teach girls about everything from the engineering to the physical driving, to the data, to the math, the science that goes into auto racing, because we know that that's another space of inequity, both the STEM space, but then certainly auto racing. And the girls who participated on this launch day when the NBC team was here got to go out to the track. They got to meet drivers. There was actually about 100 laps being ran. So it was an amazing day, and we're incredibly proud for the partnership.
And you're really leaning into to the whole STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and really connecting girls with STEM. And, there's obviously a huge need for STEM workers of all kinds, but in particular, women, girls in STEM.
Yeah, we're proud. I think something else, again, you mentioned how we're leaning in. Girl Scouts has 4 pillars. One of them is STEM. The other is entrepreneurship, which you've mentioned. And we have over 100 STEM badges. And it is our most growing space. It's our most popular space. It's also really, frankly, the hardest to teach. So we're blessed with lots of wonderful partners, whether that's Republic Airways and Lyft. Aviation is a very large gap space. We partner with, like I said, with the IMS and with the auto racing industry, and lots of others. So also DHL, right? Logistics, and the number of women in the logistics space. And all of that additionally gets to come to life with our new STEM school that opened here in August. And so we have about 70 girls enrolled, grades K through 6, who are focused on strong academic content with an additional focus dedicated to STEM. They have guest speakers, women in high tech. They have hands-on learning in the STEM space, and Girl Scouts programming integrated into their day through STEM and into the enrichment after school. So that's another something, I guess, just to say we're incredibly proud that there is an all-girls K-8 dedicated STEM program with, of those 70 girls, an incredibly diverse learning environment, because you mentioned the access to STEM careers and the number of girls graduating and going into those is already at a deficit compared to their male counterparts. And then the minority girls in STEM is even less. So we are particularly targeted in that space for our school enrollment.
And how does because I remember, I think you and I talked on the show about this, the STEM Experience Center that I think opened a couple of years ago. Talk about that, what that is all about and how it fits into this overall picture.
Yeah, so Girl Scouts of Central Indiana, we're located, I think people often don't recognize, we have a 180-acre camp called Camp Delwood. And we sit just outside of 465 at Crawfordsville Road, so you can imagine how close we are to the IMS. But on this property, the entire property is what we call our STEM Experience Campus. So in partnership with lots of great funders, Lilly Foundation being one of them, every activity on our property, whether it is our mountain biking area, whether it is the super-sized jumping pillow, which is in the ground twice the size of a swimming pool, or actually the physical exploration lab. Each of these activities have hands-on STEM learning. We have a maker's space that is focused on the construction trades. And so girls, as well as students, I think that's also something that I'd like to lift up. We open up the STEM Experience Center Monday through Friday for field trips. Since we've started it, we've had about 4,000 students from all across Central Indiana come and experience hands-on STEM, just like you might go to Conner Prairie or the Children's Museum. So we are reaching both boys and girls, and then the concentration with Girl Scouts with our STEM program center here.
It sounds to me that Girl Scouts has really become kind of a career-oriented organization. Is that an exaggeration? Is that accurate? I mean, lots of programs, STEM related and others, really geared to maybe potential career paths.
I absolutely think so. Listeners may not know this, my background is education. And when I stepped into this role 7 years ago, like next week is my anniversary. And I've said this to my superintendent friends, my principal friends, we are the best companion to the K-12 classroom. Because what I experienced as a principal and as a teacher is the time to be able to have field trips, the time to have in the guest speakers, to have young people see careers they may not understand through an adult lens who sits in that space. There's just not enough classroom moments. So if I, as a caregiver, a mom, I have 4 daughters, I think about everything you can experience in Girl Scouts and how that can be a companion to what they're hearing and seeing in school. I think it's the best thing we can offer. So yes, when I think about what they're learning in the classroom and then we bring it to life, the places we can take girls, the things they can see and experience, the women they can see, leading, doing, racing, I think that's what Girl Scouts brings. So yes, do I think that prepares them for life and career and choices they not know otherwise? Absolutely.
Yeah. Where did you have?
We have a set of badges. They're called career exploration badges. But also, yes, you can see that in a number of ways.
Yeah. So Girl Scouts has changed a lot, really, since you were a Girl Scout, right?
Oh, yeah. If we could get, I almost hesitate to say the words. If we could lose the perception and some reality, right? When I was young, again, my mom was my troop leader. I remember love crafts.
Right.
I wish we could lose the craft as like the thing or the cooking. I like that we're known as camping, right? I do like that. I do think outdoors, mental health, fresh air, activity, exercise, adventure is important. So I don't want to lose that as the perception because that's also a reality. And then cookies. I think people truly underestimate the entrepreneurship, business, communications skills that girls earn and learn in the cookie program. So I wish people could begin to understand that really it's this vast space of opportunity.
Yeah.
And that I think is pretty powerful.
How because I know I've read things that membership in Girl Scouts nationally has been down. There have been challenges there. Talk about that. I'm sure a lot of the programs you just talked about are perhaps helping that issue. But how's membership going?
So you're right. Nationally, the trend is a little down, like less than 2%. And bouncing back from COVID has obviously been a journey. Locally, our membership has grown over the last 3 years, each year. Last year, we grew 7%. The year before that, 5%. So our local membership is growing. And I do think it is, it's very much a local goal, obviously, to grow. And I think it comes from everything we just talked about, right? Every council is independently ran. Every strategy and how we deliver on our program is our own. And I would say, coupled with what we've talked about, the work we've also done in the Indiana Girl Report. So that we've just published the second Indiana Girl Report in partnership with IYI. And so we're bringing to the forefront the needs of girls and in different ways. So I think people are beginning to, one, reconsider Girl Scouts, which I think has led to the membership growth, but also we are making ourselves relevant at different levels than I think we probably were several years ago.
What's your biggest challenge? It's a different day today with the social media and the internet and all the different things that kids and young people can do these days. What are the biggest challenges that you face as an organization with increasing membership?
You kind of hit it right in time, balancing family time. I actually think there was a silver lining in COVID for us that the slowing down, the family unit re-looking at how they spend their minutes. So I actually think that helped us. I think people got back to kind of some core, what might have been considered more traditional. So we see that. And we've also had to pivot a bit, right? So we do offer more things that are family focused. So now coming to camp, we have lots of weekends all year round where you can bring your entire family, come to the STEM Experience Center and bring dad and brother and friends and experience it together. So we've embraced the family time, as well as I do think there's been a return to some of the foundational things, the outdoor time. So yeah, I think time is the biggest one. And girls, like you said, something we recently learned in the Indiana Girl Report that concerns me is when we look at our Indiana girls versus our Indiana boys, girls are less likely to be involved in either sports or arts or activities, enrichment after school. And so I think there's something there. I think I'd like to really understand what our girls are spending time doing and how they might be put in roles to be a caregiver before it's too soon. And I also think there's some gender things. So that really wasn't part of your question. It's just something that's top of mind. Like, yes, we are seeing time being the biggest issue.
Yeah. How many girls do you serve? What's the membership like here in Central Indiana, and how big is your footprint, your coverage area?
Yeah, Central Indiana. Yes, I wish I could change the title. We cover 45 counties. So
yeah, I thought it was a big swath of the state, right? Yeah.
Which so we have about 18,000 girls in our membership, and about 10 to 11,000 adults who are serving those girls.
That's a big organization. What's your greatest challenge? You talk about membership, but just in leading the organization, from a leadership standpoint.
Oh, money is always the first answer.
Yeah.
I mean, surely, right? I think everything we want to do, every additional thing we want to create, opportunity for girl program takes resources. I would say we're blessed. We are truly blessed in Indiana with so many great partners and funders. However, oftentimes funding can't go to some of those operational, organizational capacity. And so like I said, we've grown 7%. We've gone from 15,000 to almost 18,000 girl members with the same number of staff. So when you think about how do you also continue to pour into the adults who create these experiences, I would say that is always top of mind. Also, reaching more diverse communities is a challenge. I think you mentioned cookies, crafts, perception. 51% of the American public don't know what Girl Scouts is. They think we're one and the same with the organization that shares our same last name, that serves the other gender. Don't know what we do, and culturally, as we look at, whether that's Latina population, Burmese population, this is oftentimes Girl Scouts is a generational thing. Your grandmother was a Girl Scout, your mom was, so you are. But generationally, that hasn't existed culturally in those spaces. Also, things like in the Latina culture, we've changed our model to serve the family more there. Coming to camp and sending your daughter away is not the norm. So again, I think as we look at the population of our youth is shifting. I think I saw a statistic recently that I think it's by 2038, the 18-year-old and younger space will be 50% minority. And so that's another huge top of mind for us is how do we be in community in places that don't understand why they may want this for their daughter. So we've conducted in the last 2 years nearly 75 listening sessions in 20 priority communities across the state. And those priority communities are socioeconomically impacted, trauma, household impacted, language barrier impacted, to ask the question, not why isn't your child in Girl Scouts, but rather what do you want for your daughter? And the answers often are things you can find in Girl Scouts, but we're working on building relationships and trust, because we do want to make sure that this is an opportunity for all the reasons we described at the beginning, whether that's STEM or career or, just getting outside themselves and seeing things. We want that for every girl in Indiana. So we know that's something that's it's huge, huge area of focus for us.
You referenced the Boy Scouts a moment ago, and I remember a couple of years ago when the Boy Scouts said they're going to begin accepting girls into the Boy Scouts, which I think a lot of people, wonder what the deal was with that. What's the impact? And you don't hear much about it anymore, but what's the impact then of that move by the Boy Scouts?
Honestly, locally, we did not feel that in terms of membership. What we did find is oftentimes being in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts is often in, like I said, a generational family tradition. So what we did find is some families joining both, so they could continue to do the family unit. So the girl who's also a Girl Scout could then also join Boy Scouts and do some of these things with their brother and their caregiver dad, and or vice versa. So we just made family space more, I would say, accessible. So bring along the males. Obviously, the membership is girl only and unapologetically girl only, but we did not see a membership decline in Indiana.
Gotcha. Much more ahead with Danielle Shockey. She is the CEO of Girl Scouts of Central Indiana. We'll talk about her career path, growing up. But where'd you grow up, Danielle?
I grew up here in India. I grew up in Indianapolis.
And you grew up in Indianapolis. Okay, very good. Well, we'll talk about that and a lot more when the Business and Beyond podcast returns.
PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week, Danielle Shockey, the CEO of Girl Scouts of Central Indiana. And Danielle, it's not surprising really that you're in this role because education, which is a big part of what you do now and the organization does, has been a really big, you're an educator, former principal, worked at the State Department of Education, I think. Talk about how that passion and career path in education came about.
You know what? I mentioned Catholic school. I was going to be a nun. That was going to be my career path when I was younger, because I hadn't made the connection yet until I got a little bit older, that you didn't have to be I wanted to be a teacher, but I thought to be a teacher, I had to be a nun.
You had to be a
nun.
So
I had that backwards. So I don't remember a time where I didn't think I would be a teacher. Then that's exactly what happened, right? I went to Ball State undergrad, came back to where I grew up. I graduated from Lawrence Central, got my first, actually taught in Fort Wayne for a bit, but then I came home and taught in Lawrence Township. As you mentioned, school principal, a couple different schools. Somewhere along the way, I wanted to help teachers be teachers because I saw that as a need and I saw it as a talent. So yes, I went and became a principal. And then along the way, somebody said, I think there's this other thing you might consider. And so when Superintendent Glenda Ritz became the state superintendent, I went to the State House and was the deputy superintendent for 4 years, which was right before I came to Girl Scouts. And I would say, I say this, and I think another thing in Girl Scouts that I'm particularly proud of is our space we teach in civics and democracy. And so when I look back on my career thus far, I think the importance of every person understanding how a bill becomes a law, and I say that a bit in jest, it's not what Schoolhouse Rock teaches you. And so I love that part of my career trajectory as well. Being in that space, Vice President Pence was the governor. I learned a lot. I sometimes joke, I think maybe I should have paid them. It was a really good education.
Yeah. Talk about growing up. So you grew up largely in Indianapolis, but your earliest years were in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I usually, I want to consider myself a Hoosier, but yes, I was born in Pennsylvania. I moved here when I was in middle elementary school. But yeah, so I've been here for a very long time.
What, and did you think about other colleges, Ball State, I guess a natural with the teaching interest? Did you think of other schools other than Ball State?
At the time, I remember the strength. I visited Evansville when I look back, right, where educators went. But no, not really. I think Ball State was the right size. I did my master's at IU. My money goes to several different schools as well. I have 3 daughters and a stepdaughter. But no, Ball State was really the place for me. And I'm thankful for that. Very thankful for that, actually.
As you look from your perspective, where you sit now, your thoughts on the state of education, K-12 education in Indiana? How would you assess where things are from education? Obviously, is so important as we do. Obviously, our story's focused on business, and it's such a big piece of the business equation and where companies locate or don't locate. How would you assess the education landscape in Indiana now?
Well, first and foremost, I was teachers. Like our teacher, I've never met a teacher who, just doesn't have the greatest heart to make sure every student can learn. So I actually think that's probably one key factor to success is we need to continue to pour into that space and whatever that means. And I know there's a lot of politics, big P, little p, money, property tax, right? But then I also think the job is hard and it only is getting harder. I don't know how to make it easier. I think when I look at the resources that our education space needs, I think about mental health and the number of external factors that are showing up in classrooms. So I think when I, again, think about things we need to really pull levers on to make sure our children grow up ready for a career, it's classroom and outside of classroom. So that could be a whole other podcast. I would say I love some of the changes that are being made in terms of thinking about our diploma. I think there's a lot of positive in that. I also have I know there's lots of great dollars recently been invested in that. I think about our rural spaces. And when you think about these high school graduates being required to have this internship, this project-based learning, all the different terms that go with that, how can we make sure that we're not creating greater inequities as we look across our 92 states? Because I guess I continue to be surprised. We still have parts of Indiana that don't have good internet connectivity outside of the school day. And now we're thinking about that same student or all of those students that are juniors and seniors having a work-based learning experience that prepares them for a career they may not know exists, right? I think they might understand what's available in their area, but what else might they have opportunity to go into? That's something I watch closely, carefully. I think about, and then I think about through the Girl Scouts lens, right? If in fact, girls in our 45 counties, which are very vast, rural, urban, suburban, what can we provide for them in Girl Scouts that may not exist in their home space? Because I do think there's a wide world out there. And I just mentioned myself, I was going to be a teacher from the time I was 5. I didn't stop and look. Like my greatest advice to young people today, and this isn't your question, is pause. Like I thought I had to go to college, get a job, get married, have a child, and do all these things. And I really wish for our young people today that they can step back and they can look at college and career and military and things that maybe that they've never witnessed before and take it all in and make decisions that are really, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that thought other than I just think there's so much out there to consider. And I hope Indiana's education system is making those opportunities vast enough for all of our youth, not just some of our youth.
Do you think the culture is changing a little bit in Indiana, kind of along those lines? The thought process largely was always, I've got to go to a 4-year college or university, period, or else I'm a failure. And now there are, there's a lot of focus on 2-year institutions and certificates and all those types of things where young people can go into really good careers, and they are very much needed. Semiconductors and all the different, investments being made in Indiana. So I guess along those lines, do you see more young people kind of considering, we've got great 4-year institutions for sure, but also looking at some of the other options?
I do. I think we're incredibly lucky in Indiana. As I travel across the country, so we obviously do lots with Girl Scout leaderships across the country. Our Ivy Tech and our system is like no other. So I actually really hope that we can continue to push upon that. All of the choices, the 2-year choices, the certificate choices, the 4-year choices are for every student versus what I still feel sometimes is there's this, this student will do this versus this, and I don't want to use the word, but I think sometimes we don't leave all the doors open long enough. But I do think our state system of Ivy Tech is amazing. I think the other thing that I see more utilized than before, but I think is a lot of opportunity in Indiana, is you can essentially graduate from high school in Indiana having earned enough credits to walk into an institution with almost your entire freshman year complete. That obviously has huge financial implications. It has implications on the ability to take on additional degree types and still finish in 4 years. I think that's underutilized, understood, a little less understood than it needs to be. And then I also think we've made some positive changes on the FAFSA fund, things we're doing in terms of automatic enrollment. I think, again, all the right pieces are in place. I think about where is still the gap exists. And I think the gap exists for me, Gary, as I look at the education space, is in reading, which I know we're doing a great deal to try to make sure our youth are good readers by grade 2, grade 3. But then I also think about mathematics and the family caregiver understanding of, because it used to be you started thinking about, is my child going to be in algebra as an 8th grader, as a freshman? But now it's more like you have to be thinking as a 5th grade family and a 5th grade, because if you get a little out of sync with that trajectory, you're automatically, I think, closing doors to career, college, certain opportunities before you're in middle school and you don't know it. So I think about that. And I also think, and I've talked about this a lot, and Girl Scouts does this, we need to get youth to our college and to our Ivy Tech and to our career campuses earlier. When you grow up in a place where you don't have access to see those things, in places where I was a principal in with a great deal of barriers to access to a lot of things. When you say go to college or get a job, there's no mind map for that. The mental model of why I might want something like that doesn't exist. So I think about how's Girl Scouts, how's our education? So while yes, bias, junior, senior, and having an internship is important, what are those stair steps that need to happen younger and sooner? So again, they begin to think, okay, how am I going to get there? And what does that getting there look like? And why do I want it? And what is it?
What's next as you look to the future, Danielle, of the Girl Scouts? You have so many initiatives underway now that are new or relatively new. We talked about STEM and all the different areas you're focused on, a STEM school. As you look at the organization, 5-10 years down the road, what would you like to see?
I'd like to see, so for the first time with the Indiana Girl Report, we're doing a lot around education and advocacy, and even stepping into the space of taking a stand and doing some registered lobbying in our state house, in the places where I think what the report has revealed, as well as our identification of the 20 Indiana counties for which Girl Scouts doesn't have a presence because of the barriers to access. I want people to think about women and girls differently. And I want Girl Scouts, and there's an Indiana Women's Report that is coming out in just a few weeks in partnership with the Women's Fund and the Polis Center. I think we're going to be the first state to have an Indiana Women and Girl Report. And I don't think we spend enough time thinking about their needs uniquely differently. And so if Girl Scouts in the future can reach and serve more girls while making change that makes Indiana a great place to grow up being female, that's what I see in our future. And being in the places of influence where that happens. And again, having the research and the data to say that our boys and our girls are not getting equal access. They're not getting equal care. They're struggling at different rates. And you're probably not, I'm not going to surprise you when I say girls are struggling in spaces academically, physically, socially, and emotionally more than their males. And I want to figure out why, and I want to change that.
Danielle Shockey is the CEO of Girl Scouts of Central Indiana. Danielle, it has been a real treat to catch up with you and get your perspectives on a whole range of issues, including what is happening at Girl Scouts, which is substantial. So thanks for taking the time, and thank you for all you do to help girls in our state do great things. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much. Thanks. So take care.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. We are a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, education, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.